All right, in this video, we're going to talk about panels. So if I go over to the window menu and go down to these little things right here, these are all panels, okay? So think of the panels as kind of your toolbox, okay? Literally. You'll notice the panels that are checked, those are already active in the workspace. So for example, we have properties, which is right here. We have color, which is right here. We have layers right here. And those are the three that are kind of highlighted, and those are the main panels that are open right now in this workspace. So when we change the workspace, which we talked about in the previous video, when we change the workspace, what happens is the panels change. And when you think of a workspace, think of panels, okay? So the panels are areas that hold different types of functionality and different types of, not just functionality, but assets like swatches, styles, gradients. And you'll notice these aren't checked. So styles, swatches, swatches, gradients, and patterns, okay? These three are not checked, but they're active over here. So what does that mean? That means that they're part of this group of panels. Okay, so you can group the panels together. Now this is why in the previous video I talked about having multiple monitors, because what you can do with multiple monitors is you're able to kind of put your canvas in the middle. And what I like to do, and you can do it however you want if you have 3 monitors or 2, I like to put my canvas, if I have 2 monitors, I'll put the canvas on the left, I'll put the layers on the far right, and kind of expand them out like this. Okay, and I like to really see what I'm doing. Okay, and then you can take the next panel and put it next to it and stack it so that it's easier to navigate. Okay, now in this example, I only have 1 monitor because I'm just recording 1 screen. I actually have multiple monitors, but I'm only using 1 so that you can kind of see how compact it gets when you have a lot of panels open, okay? So now let's talk about each panel individually, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I will go to Window, we're gonna go to Workspace, and we're gonna click on Reset Essentials. So we'll reset it back to where it was. And the cool thing about being able to work with the panels and the workspaces is you can adjust this, and I talked about this in the previous video, you can adjust the workspaces and then save it as a new workspace and get it to the way that you like, okay? Because one of the most important things about creative work is you need to have an environment that is creatively stimulating, that's going to basically inspire you to be creative, right? And so you got to find that space and you got to find that layout that works for you. And then once you have that, then you're good. So like I said, for me, what I need is 3 monitors. I need the canvas in the middle, my layers on the right, other important panels on the right, and then on the left, I put the tools, okay? That works for me, but you may be different, okay? And that's fine too. So find that balance with the panels so that you can utilize everything that Photoshop has to offer. And the best way to utilize everything that it has to offer is to know what all the panels do, which is what we're going to talk about right now. Now, it's going to be kind of a quick overview or summary of what each panel does, but as we go through projects later in the course, we'll talk more in depth about each panel, okay? So this will not be the last time we talk about panels, but I just want to introduce you to the panels so you have a good idea of what they do, and it's extremely important to understand what they do, because it's like using a hammer. If you don't know what the hammer does, you can't use it, okay? Same with the panels. If you don't know what the panels do, you can't use them, okay? effectively. You can use them, but you may not use them for what they're intended, their purpose. So let's go to Window and let's click on 3D and take a look at this. Okay. So 3D is kind of not an anomaly. It's, we're working in 2D space. So there's not really a lot to talk about with 3D at this juncture. But if I get into a 3D project with Photoshop, I will definitely talk more about 3D. Okay. So again, some of these I'm going to graze over. Some of them I'll do a little more of a deeper dive into. Just depends on what it is. Like this one, I could talk about this for 3 hours. Okay, so this is a perfect example of a panel that's crucial to your success with Photoshop. And the other thing about it is it's an awesome tool. Okay, and I have a great story for you that relates to the actions panel that is relevant to what we're talking about. Okay, so I have 193 courses. And what I do is I'll do like a monthly report on reviews, students, revenue, etc. And what I came up with actions is I have an actions, it's not on this account, it's on my other account, but I have an actions setup where when I hit play, what it does is it will grab all of the content that I have from Udemy. I have to go on Udemy and I have to take screenshots. So I take the screenshots, then I bring them into Photoshop. I hit play and it takes all those photos and formats it onto a document to show that report for that month. Okay. And it's really cool. And what I did was I ended up using like a legal size format, which is, I believe is, if I'm not mistaken, I'll look it up real quick because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I believe if I go to print, let's do legal. It's 8.5 by 14 inches. Okay. And the reason why I use that over the regular letter is because it's taller, so you can get more information on there. You have 3 more inches to work with and get more information on there. So what I did is I set up a template, not on this account, but on my other Creative Cloud account. And when I hit play, and I've already set up all the automation, okay? So think of actions as a recorder. And what it does is when you do something, you hit record, okay? Or you would create a new action, okay? So you hit the create a new action, then you record what you do. So let's say that you wanted to create a new action. We'll just call it action 1 and we'll record. So I want to do file, new, and I want to make a new document, okay? And I want it to be a web large file, right? Okay, so now what I can do is I can go into this action, I can hit play. And now it makes another document. And I do it again and again and again. And what that does, and this is a very basic example, but what that does for my report is it eliminates so much time from the process. Because now instead of me capturing all that information and bringing it into Photoshop and then laying it out, all I have to do is capture that information and then bring it into Photoshop and hit play. And I open up all the files, I hit play, and it grabs all the files and stacks them exactly where they need to be. And like I said, you could see with the action I just played, I can create a file by just hitting play. I don't even have to go to file and new. Okay, so in the programming world, they call this a function. Okay, in the consumer world, where they're trying to give you simpler terms to understand what they're doing, this is called an action in Photoshop. Okay, but it really is a function. Because in JavaScript, when you write a function, or in PHP or in Python, what you're doing is you're writing a statement. If I do this, then do that. Okay, that's what a function is, and that's what the actions panel is. It's a function, and it's exciting and it's fun. okay? And you can do a lot with it. And there's a gazillion actions out there on the World Wide Web for you to look up and find. And I highly recommend that you do that. Like you go out on your own and research actions because it will save you so much time on everything. And the example I gave you, which is creating my course report, monthly course report, it eliminates so much time. I try to do it the old way, where I would grab everything, and I'm extremely fast. I'm good at keyboard shortcuts and all that stuff, and I am very efficient in Photoshop. But even I could not beat out the automation, the action, the function. The function smoked me. Okay, it literally took me 8 hours to do it by hand. I tried it one time and did 193 courses. So I was taking pictures, chopping everything up, putting it and laying it out the way I wanted it. And then I came back and did the actions. I'm like, wow, this only took me an hour. So I eliminated 7 hours of work just by using the actions panel. Okay, and I wanted to see the difference because I'm always about working efficiently, but I'll try both ways just to see which way works better. So in a long-winded explanation, that's the actions panel, okay? But it's worth talking in long form about because it's a very important part of the panels in Photoshop. It's probably one of the most important panels. That and layers are probably the two most important panels that you're going to run into, okay? There are others, but the top of the list are those. Okay, so then we have adjustments. So adjustments are just, they have templates or preset adjustments. Okay, so I can just hover over them and in real time I can see what it would look like if I used one of these presets. Okay, same with hue and saturation, brightness, curves, all that stuff. Same kind of thing, but it's, again, this is very simplistic, but if I wanted to change the look of the layer, I would just select cinematic as an example. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to split the tone. I love blue. So I love blue and purple. So I'm going to split the tone and use that mask to make kind of a cool looking layer and adjust what we've been doing. Okay. Remember, always have fun. Photoshop is fun. Okay. That's the key to this whole thing. So the next thing let's talk about is brush settings. So with brush settings, we need a brush. So I'm going to grab a brush. Okay. And I'm going to create a layer so I can draw on it. There we go. And I can go up here and I can change the brushes to a bunch of varieties, different styles and strokes and kind of just different textures on how it lays on the canvas. Okay. So that's brush settings and brushes. Okay, so I'll close both of those. The next one is channels. Now this is just for color. So everything you see on the screen here is RGB. Okay, and I talked a little bit about this before when I mentioned my AV kind of connection with this. And basically what I was saying is when I worked in the AV world, and I did LED lights, we used RGB, okay? And so you can see this is the color code for that. Channels is the same thing. What you're doing is you're turning off the red, you're turning off the green, you're turning off the blue. That's all you're doing with the channels. So you got 3 channels. You got red, you got green, and you got blue. And you can see which color is the most dominant. Okay, based on the RGB code. So red is 66, green is 9. So we only have 9%, or not 9%, but just 9 out of 255 is green. 66 out of 255 is red. 102 out of 255 is blue. So blue is the dominant color in this example. Okay, and that's channels. So channels allow you to see what's missing, and being a video a senior video technician or a video engineer. I worked with RGB all day and all night, and that's all I did. And I remember I did a show in Miami Beach, and one of my colors was out, and we were using VGA cable. So I had VGA plugged into a device, and in the middle of the show, my screen had the balance of all three colors, and all of a sudden it was blue. So one of the colors got knocked out. I think it was red or green that got knocked out because blue was showing, so that one was working, but the other two channels were not. So that's how it relates to Photoshop. Is it's red, green, and blue are all connected together. Okay. Then we have character styles and character. Okay. And I'm back. I had to run out for a second. So the character and character styles is just for text. So it's the font, it's the font style, it's the size, and all this other good stuff. Same with paragraph. You can set the alignment, all that stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory. Comments. This allows you to share your stuff and leave comments. Okay. History, because it's popping up there. It just shows what you've been doing. So it'll show a history of all the things that you've done, all the actions that you've taken. And you can literally create a new document from the current state, create a new snapshot. You can delete the current state. Okay. Glyphs. This is like, has to do with fonts. Okay. I'll just close that. And then we have content credentials, which is a capture edits and activity in Photoshop and attach them to your image when you export. Okay. So this is kind of a new feature. I haven't really utilized it that much, but it's there, so I'm just mentioning it. Gradients, okay? So I have a gradient in this cloud setup that we made, but it's a little bit different than what a gradient would be in the example that you would use, and that is this. So this would be a gradient, okay? And if I grab another layer and do a gradient, that's what it would look like, okay? And then if I do blues, you can see the blues, okay? Which I think look really cool, by the way. But again, purple is one of my favorite colors. So purple and blue are kind of connected together. If you look at the color wheel, you got red, pink, purple, blue, then green, then yellow, then orange. Then it comes back around. So blue and purple are real close together. So you don't want to kind of overlap them in terms of them being together, because they're kind of the same dominant color. You know what I mean? But it's one of my favorite colors. So, so we talked about history, histogram. This is more for seeing what your levels are for red, green, and blue. Okay. It's not really a good example with this. You need a photo really to do that. So I'll talk more about that later. And again, I'm probably going to talk about most of these when we're doing projects. You'll probably hear me rambling about one of them in one way, shape, or form. But this is more to just give you kind of an understanding of what they do. Okay. And a basic understanding. Okay. Just so you know, okay, this is 3D, this is actions, this does this. Layers, okay? Layers are, that's one of my favorite panels. I think it's my most favorite panel in Photoshop. And they have, I will give Adobe credit, they have way better explanations now of all this stuff than they ever have before. You know, they have a lot of kind of little tips and stuff that you can learn from and all that, and that's great. Okay. But we talked about this in the main menu section where we talked about the layer menu. Okay. all of these options are available to you in the layer menu, okay, which is over here. And so we really talked about it there. But the cool thing about this is you can add effects, okay? We can add a mask, layer masks, allow you to hide parts of your image and then bring them back at any time, okay? Then we can also add create and, what does it say? Create new fill or adjustment layer, okay? So I can add different things there. We can add a group. You can add a layer. You can delete a layer, okay? And really what this is for, what I use this menu for, is to merge images, okay? Merge visible, merge down, flatten image. That's really what I use it for, and to also convert smart objects and that kind of thing. When you're bringing vector graphics in here from Illustrator, that's a smart object. And a smart object is a vector asset because vector graphics, they don't lose their resolution. So if you shrink it down, it keeps the same resolution. If you expand it, it keeps the same look and feel, no matter what. Photoshop is raster graphics. So what happens is, and the dots per inch is only 72 pixels. And the reason why they did that is it was originally made for TV. So when they made TV, you're not going to sit right next to the TV and look at it. You're going to be far away and watch the video, okay? So they set it up to where you only need 72 pixels per inch, and the resolution was real low. It was 720 by 480 when they started. It was 1920 by 1080, and then now it's like 4 times that with 4K. So, but the resolution in terms of the dots per inch or the pixels per inch is still 72 PPI or DPI, however you look at it. And that's important to understand because that's video for you, and that's RGB, and we love RGB, right? Okay, so then we have libraries. I don't have any libraries to show you. If I have my other account active or logged into, you'd see it. Materials, this is for 3D, okay? Then we have measurement log, navigator, and notes. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Paragraph and paragraph styles. This is for text, paths, patterns, properties, shapes. So this is for, these are vector shapes, okay? Then we have styles, which are some of my favorite. Now I don't have the styles that I've built out with my own account, but they have some interesting ones here, right? And then we have swatches, which are, and here, let me reset our workspace here. Swatches, so we have different swatches available to us by default. These are kind of the preset swatches that they put in there, but you can make your own custom swatches and create a new group as well, okay? Timeline, this is for doing video. I don't really do a lot of video stuff in Photoshop. It's not that Photoshop is not capable, it's very capable, but After Effects is kind of my wheelhouse for that. Tool presets, and then we have version history. So this is a cloud-based, the version history of a cloud document will be shown here. So if this document was a cloud document, it would show up here. Now it's not, it's a local document, so it's not going to show up, but we will have an example of that later on. So there you go. And then we have application frame, so that's just all this. And so if I turn that off, okay, you see what happened. So I'm going to turn it back on. And then options, okay, it just takes out the top toolbar. And then tools, okay, but I can just, and then the contextual contextual taskbar, I almost said text bar. Or you can just hit tab. It does the same thing. So that in a long form sense is panels. Okay. So thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.